Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular business meeting of the District of Squamish for Tuesday, December 17th, 2019, the last council meeting of this decade. As always, we're meeting tonight on the traditional territory of the Squamish Nation, Squamish, please to look BYLAWS, Squamish, Wayamail. We have an amended agenda in front of us, council, so there was just a small miss, which was adding the utilities, fees and charges bylaw for adoption. And also there was a late addition to correspondence from Kay Balcom under 10C. So with that, motion to adopt the amended agenda, moved by Councillor Rickford, second by Councillor French. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Any no's motion? Seeing none, we do have one delegation this evening, and that is from the Squamish Men's Shed. So I'll invite you to come forward to the podium or to the chairs, wherever you're most comfortable, and just introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Robert Goluch. I'm the president of the Squamish Men's Shed Society.
And I'm Mike Miller. I'm Director of Communications.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting us to be part of your agenda today. We're excited to be here to tell you a little bit about what we were able to accomplish with the $8,000 Community Enhancement Grant that you favored us in 2019. I can tell you that your generous and timely support made a huge difference in the evolution of our organization and how we were able to serve our community, and especially our members. As you know, we are all volunteers. We have no paid staff. So let me say a few words, if I might, about why the shed is important. And I should mention as well that a final report will be sent next week. It's got a lot more details than what I have over here today. I'm going to try to keep it brief. And let me say that the shed is important in any community. And the reason I say that is through the research that has been conducted, encouraging social participation, particularly among many older people, has become a major concern to policy and health experts. As a growing body of research points to the serious health risks associated with loneliness, and that ranges from cardiovascular disease and cancer to depression and dementia. According to recent data from the Canadian Longitudinal Study on Aging, which is a large national long-term study, 1 in 3 Canadian women and 1 in 5 men over the age of 75 are socially isolated. But since there are a few community programs that specifically target men, Men's Shed is an ideal way to tackle a real need. And that was said by Dr. Corey McKenzie, and he's a professor of psychology and an adjunct professor in psychiatry at the University of Manitoba. Incidentally, we had him as our guest speaker at our last year's AGM. These meetings, Professor McKenzie says, can help those suffering from mental and physical health issues, for instance, by providing a sense of belonging to individuals with depression, or allowing those with prostate cancer to share experiences and advice. Our shed went one step further with our Health by Stealth series. And it's aimed at its members, but also open to the public at no cost. For example, to date, we've offered 5 topics, health-related topics, that include nutrition and the New Canada Food Guide, macular degeneration, funeral planning, sexuality, and that was a difficult one to market, but we got a very good response. And also our most recent topic, surviving old age, and that was done by no other than one of our own shed members, Dr. David Gayton. And he was very humorous, it went very well, and we had a good turnout. These topics are presented by our community's top professionals who generously donated their talents and time. And I want to also acknowledge a number of people who helped us organize this Health by Stealth series, including Christine Greer, of the Rec Services, and she's at the 55 Activity Center, and Christina Rupp of the Better at Home program. We have a real good working relationship with the two of them, and we couldn't find lovelier people to work with. They're enthusiastic, they're very supportive, everything works really well when the three of us are together making this thing happen. Their assistance was invaluable. And again, I just want to say that the public response to this series was very encouraging. So when we submitted our application, we stated 3 objectives. And so let me report to you briefly on the outcomes of those 3 objectives. The first one was promoting volunteerism and membership. We welcomed 8 new members to our organization. That is a 1/3 increase in membership. We developed an orientation kit, an orientation session, and a workshop safety training. All new members were required to participate in these sessions. Now, the increase in membership improved our ability to undertake more complex community projects, and with the added new skills from the new members, we were able to expand our workshop. We were also able to participate in more community events, such as the Brackendale Fair, the 55 Wellness Clinic, the Children's Festival, and other events involving the Watershed Society, streamers, streamkeepers, and so on. One of our members even conducts weekly hands-on crafting sessions with the residents of Hilltop Place. Hilltop House. Now, 1/3 increase in membership may not sound like a lot, but you know, we have limited space in the shed. Originally it was about 140 square feet. We've increased that to about 640 square feet, which is still not a lot. And so the optimal amount of members that could operate in that facility would be about 25. So we're around 21 now, and we hope in the future that when we when we move to a new facility, a bigger facility, we will welcome more members. Okay, the second objective has to do with the community requested build projects. So the enhancement grant, together with new members, enabled our shed to respond to numerous community requests, including the following: a piano library for Hilltop Place, free library cabinet with bench for the district's community services, and that's located right in the front entrance, you can see that. Garden planters with 2 benches for Cedars Manor, platform panels for the Arts Council, salmon, eagle, bird, and other bug cutouts for the Watershed Society, and the children love to paint on them. And bat houses, even bat houses. There's a bat program in BC, and the bat coordinator asked us to get involved, and so we were involved and constructed a number of bat houses. I'll stop there. We've made it a point to establish really good relationships with nonprofit organizations in the community. And we've received numerous testimonials about our completed build projects, which would not be possible, of course, without the enhancement grant that we received from you. So our society was invited and accepted to participate in focus group studies. We enjoyed that, regarding strategic community planning with the Squamish Library and the district's Arts, Culture, and Heritage Department. That was quite an exercise, and as I said, we thoroughly enjoyed that one. The next one has to do with the social hub. Like, the shed is the heart of our organization. That's the place where we meet to build projects, to socialize, to discuss. That's where we house all our tools and materials and so on. And as I said earlier, we started with about 160 square feet. We are now at 640 square feet. And we had to embellish the facility with a dust collection system, because there wasn't that. And when you have 6 power tools and you get a number of people working together, you know, construction dust is all over the place. Some of our members have allergies, so we have to be very careful about their health and other members' health. And so one of the biggest expenditures within the enhancement grant went to purchasing and installing a dust collection system. It's not quite installed yet. It will be installed next week probably. Hopefully by the end. Yeah. And so the grant, and to install the collection system, we had to expand a little bit of the facility, and the materials needed, like lumber, roofing, and electrical materials, again, was supported by that grant. So I just want you to know that we make every effort to buy locally. We wait for retail sales. We negotiate discounts with local retailers, or we buy used.
We also recycle a lot.
And we recycle a lot. All expenditures require the approval of the board of directors, and in cases of expenditures exceeding $1,000, approval from membership, the entire membership, is required. So everybody's in the know, so there's no, we want to focus on accountability and transparency and so on. All expenditures were receipted, and our final report will contain a list and cost of all the expenditures with receipts. So over a year ago, the president of our society suffered from cardiac arrest and passed away. This grant allowed us to purchase an AED to deal with any medical emergencies in the shops. We organized a CPR AED course for all our members. They've enrolled in it, they've taken it, they've passed it, and now they are certified to operate the AED in the event that a medical emergency occurs in the shop. So we thank you for that as well. So as an organization, we're gaining strength, and in 2 years, you may be aware of that, we'll be moving to a new facility. It's the new seniors residence replacing Cedars. And with it, of course, will bring a lot of challenges, including some financial ones for us. And I had the privilege of discussing this great opportunity for our shed with our mayor, and we thank her for her encouragement and the advice that I got from her on that issue. Lastly, I just want to say that our local media was always helpful in promoting our story, the story of dementia, but especially the Health by Stealth series. Jennifer at the Chief was very, very helpful, and Mountain FM were very good to us, and I want to publicly thank them as well. So I'm not going to say any more. There's a lot of information that will be submitted to you in the final report, but I do want to present our society's in-house made plaque to the mayor and council as a token of our appreciation for your generous support of our men's shed. May I do that now? It's a small thing, but it is a very special thing.
That's lovely. So it says, Squamish Men's Shed with gratitude to District of Squamish 2019 Community Enhancement Grant Program. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you, everybody. Leave this with.
So, council, any questions for the men's shed, or I'm not going to let you go just yet?
Okay.
Any questions or comments? Okay.
Well, I just think this kind of exemplifies the best in the community, people coming together, working together, supporting each other, the community. It's just a fantastic story, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say that when I saw the back condo, I was stalled on the men's shed. And I think I mentioned this in our meeting, Robert, is that I hear about the men's shed more when I'm out in the community because of the great work that you and your members are doing, contributing to our not-for-profit and our other programs, as well as hosting your Health by Stealth series. What a great name. So I would just like to say keep up the great work, and it's great to get that kind of update and know where our community enhancement grants go and how they're being used. So thanks very much for the update. Councillor Anderson, I see your hand.
Yes, I noted in your presentation that you mentioned the Arts, Cultural and Heritage Strategy Workshop and their engagement process, and you've been taking part in that, and I commend you for that, because it seems to me that MenShed is part of our arts and culture infrastructure. You're involved in exhibits and displays and helping out behind the scenes, so I would just encourage you to continue involvement with that strategy process and give your insights and perspective on our needs.
Thank you very much, we will.
Thank you so much for coming tonight, really
Thank you.
appreciate it. And
Compliments
thank you
of
for
the
our little
season.
plaque.
Thank you very much, and compliments of the season to you.
All right, Council, we have a number of adoptions this evening. The first is the single-use items reduction bylaw. So, Councilor Stoner?
Is there a presentation?
No, there's no presentation.
I will move the staff
Councilor Stoner
recommendation.
moves single-use items reduction bylaw, seconded by Councilor Reyes. Any comments? Councilor Stoner?
I will speak to it very briefly. This has obviously been before us a few times, but we have received a few comments from the public around how they feel like this maybe doesn't go far enough with regards to reducing plastic waste and the approach that we've taken in terms of weighing greenhouse gas emissions versus other environmental impacts of plastic. And I just want to reassure folks that this is intended and written as a single-use items reduction bylaw in an effort to reduce all single-use items and shift our population towards a space of less disposable lifestyles. And so not that I just want to reiterate that we haven't lost sight of that in the long term, and wanted the community to know that. So thanks again to staff for their detailed work on this, and I'm excited to see this move forward by the end of 2019.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you for your good work on this. We know our senior levels of government are now looking at this. Thanks to your work, 29 other municipalities submitted comments with us in the District of Tofino. So I think municipalities are showing great leadership on this issue. And as soon as we're able to ban single-use plastics, I'm sure we'll jump on board with that. So thank you very much for your work. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Connected to that bylaw is our municipal ticket information bylaw, amendment bylaw number 2704-2019. By Councilor Stoner, seconded by Councilor Herford. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And the last one is the notice enforcement bylaw, the amendment bylaw number 2705-2019. Moved by Councilor Reyes, seconded by Councilor Pettengill. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. The one we almost forgot, but it's very important, the District of Squamish Fees and Charges Bylaw number 2012-27, Amendment Bylaw 2712-2019. That's by Councilor Stoner, seconded by Councilor Herford. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Couple of staff reports. We need to set a public hearing date for the zoning bylaw number 2588-2018, so that's Wilson Crescent. The proposed date is 28th of January in Council Chambers. Moved by Councilor Reyes, seconded by Councilor Herford. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, in continuation of our water metering program, the internal and external meter water installation contract award. Over to you, Mr. Merrill.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Dave Merrill, Director of Major Projects. So I'm here to discuss a recommendation for award of 2 contracts for the installation of water meters. Before I get into that, I thought it would be beneficial to provide a brief update on the program itself for the benefit of Council as well as the public. So, background. 2015, the district created or generated a water master plan, which is basically a comprehensive assessment of the district's water system, both current and future infrastructure requirements and demands. Water metering was a key recommendation of that plan to address water supply and consumption concerns in preparation for future growth in the community. This water meter implementation strategy, which formed part of the water master plan, recommended that the district meter all industrial, commercial, and institutional properties, or ICI. There was a robust debate in council, and ultimately council at the time elected to include multifamily properties as part of the metering program in addition to the ICI properties. Sort of a broader scope, universal metering, which would include multifamily, ICI, and single-family homes, was recommended per the strategy to be not implemented at the time due to the high costs and the low returns, but at the next water master plan update in 5 to 10 years, that it would be reassessed, and at that time it might make more sense to meter single-family homes as well. So that brings us to the water meter implementation program, and essentially the scope of this program is to install water meters at all existing non-metered ICI and multifamily properties. So as of 2015, any new multifamily or ICI property is required to put in a meter. So the program that we're working on is targeting properties that were built prior to that were not metered. In addition, currently the current requirements are for single-family homes that they install a box outside the property that a meter could be installed in the future if we do elect to go towards universal metering. So the table up here looks a little daunting, but it's essentially a summary of water meters that have been installed as part of this program to date, and it also includes meters that will be installed at the end of the 2 contracts recommended for award tonight. So essentially by mid-2020, we'll have a total of 253 new water meters. This, of course, is only the meters installed as part of this program, so we would also have additional meters within the community that have been installed in new builds since 2015. So that 253 includes 169 internal water meters, so essentially water meters that are installed within a building's mechanical room. It includes 48 external water meters, which are water meters that are installed outside in a buried underground chamber, and those are typically for larger diameter water services and typically for multifamily properties. And then we've also identified a number of meters throughout the community that there's existing meters, but it doesn't have a radio head that communicates with our software that our public works staff uses. So we've taken the opportunity and upgraded those meter heads so that now those 36 meters talk to our system and we can collect data from them. As we move to the right in the table, you can see that those 253 meters actually service 1,935 residential units or businesses. And largely that comes down to the multifamily properties where we can have one large meter that services 30, 40, 50 or beyond actual units. So the total value of the installations to date, or by the end of this contract, is approximately 1.5 million. And further to the right, you can see the approximate cost per meter, and then in parentheses, the cost per unit, residential unit or business unit. So after these 2 contracts are complete, we will have approximately 90 sites remaining that will be unmetered. And that corresponds to approximately 1,200 units or businesses. We anticipate that these, as you can see, the breakdown of those is approximately 30 multifamily complexes and 60 ICI businesses. We expect these remaining 90 installations to be a bit more challenging. A lot of them are complicated sites where, for example, a multifamily townhome complex has a looped water main. So the water main comes in at one end, goes through the development, and comes out at the other end. There we have to make the decision, do we put in 2 very expensive underground chambers at roughly $90,000 a piece to capture flows from both ends, or do we take an approach where we meter every unit? So those are some of the challenges. We also have complex sites where the services location is unknown, so we have to do a lot more investigative work to figure out where they are, or businesses that are difficult to access or maybe difficult to communicate with. So that is beyond the scope of these contracts tonight, but that's the picture moving forward. So just to reflect on what we've experienced to date as far as challenges with delivering this project. Initially we had some issues the first go around when we set up a competition for external water meter installations. It was a relatively large value contract, however, we didn't get any responses. That was partly due to the fact that construction at the time was booming and there weren't a lot of contractors interested. And also we elected to procure the meters internally, so the contract was only for the installation. And so the value may not have been there for contractors. So that delayed the project a little bit. We incurred quite a lot of site-specific challenges where we're tying into old infrastructure, complicated services, complicated mechanical rooms that required a lot of work, and you touch a valve or a pipe in these old buildings and they crumble. So there was a lot of sort of finicky work involved in a lot of the sites, as well as access issues, which sort of delayed the project, trying to get into these sites over and over again. Additionally, versus the estimated costs that were in the water meter strategy in the water master plan, we found that costs have been higher than anticipated, and a lot of that has to do with sort of larger ICI buildings with larger services, and also large multifamily developments that have 4-inch, 6-inch services. The chamber and the meters required for those is quite expensive. However, when you break it down to a per unit cost, it's palatable. However, these costs weren't anticipated in the original water meter strategy. A couple of questions that have come up through the project from the public. One in particular dealing with universal metering. Why are we not metering single-family homes? So the water meter strategy touched on this. Single-family homes account for 90% of the water services within Squamish. So the majority of actual service connections are single-family homes. However, it only represents approximately 60% of total water consumption. With universal metering, there was anticipated to be approximately 4,100 meters. In 2015 dollars, that represented about $9.5 million in capital costs to install meters at all of the single-family homes and multifamily and ICI. It was determined through an analysis that high cost of $9.5 million isn't justified based on the expected returns, which comes in the form of about $2 to $3 million in capital expenditures. So not having to spend money on infrastructure, water storage, and distribution infrastructure. Doing the universal metering would result in a 20% increase in utility rates over 5 years, which was excessive and probably not palatable. As I mentioned earlier, the Water Master Plan did recommend universal metering as a long-term goal, so it will be reassessed when we do the next update to the Water Master Plan. And also, as I mentioned, that new single-family homes are required to put in boxes and spool pieces, so that if we do go to universal metering, it will be relatively simple to install a relatively cheap meter within these existing boxes. The other question that came up quite often was, why are we not metering individual units within a multifamily development? There's quite a few reasons, and it seems to be consistent within municipalities that are implementing water meter strategies that they try to, whenever possible, put one meter for a multifamily complex. So once you get to inside a multifamily complex, the water system is strata owned. So the district has no control over what's done with that system. There could be water systems that come off of there for irrigation, for example, that would be unaccounted for if we metered individual units. In addition, could be leakage or unauthorized water use within the property that, again, wouldn't be accounted for if we metered individual units. Other reasons, installations within individual units typically cost more. Typically there's work you have to do again, drywall, and a lot of issues installing them within the units. Water usage between different units within a strata is often more uniform than between single-family properties. As I mentioned, the cost of installing meters, 1 meter for a complex can be cheaper than actually installing meters in individual units. And in addition, it's difficult for public works and engineering staff to go in and inspect these meters if they're in individual people's units relative to a meter at the property. So, next steps. We expect to continue meter installations this year, and as I mentioned, those 90 additional sites we'll be targeting for next year. We are in the process of updating our software to collect this data, which will give us the ability to start analyzing data that we're collecting from all these sites in preparation for a water rate analysis that's expected to be complete, I believe, in 2022. So this water rate analysis, it was detailed, the plan was detailed in the water meter implementation strategy. So essentially, this analysis will be done to develop a rate structure alternatives. So, how could we structure rates to move towards billing based on water usage? How do we communicate these changes to the public? Likely through shadow billing, so people can see if we were to be billed by my usage, what would I be paying relative to what I'm paying now? That's a good wake-up call for people that maybe use a lot of water. They can see that, oh, I better conserve water, try to use less so that my bill is not a lot more than I'm paying now. We'll also assess the potential impact of revenue stability, and then we'll move to actually implementing the new water rate structure, and then basically continue to reassess the water rate structure to assess potential seasonal water rates to further support water conservation efforts. So that wasn't so brief, but now we'll move to the actual recommendation to award this contract. So the work that we've done, we've separated, as I mentioned, into two different contracts. One contractor for external water meters, which is typically a civil contractor, and then one contractor for the internal water meter installations, which is typically a plumber. So we did two competitions. The external water meter installation competition closed on November 18th. We received 3 submissions, and the submission of Complete Utility Contractors Limited was evaluated the highest by internal staff evaluation team. Similarly, the internal water meter installations competition, closed on November 26th. We received 3 submissions for that one, and Neptune Technology Group was evaluated as the highest submission. So based on that, we have 3 resolutions in front of you. I'll just read them out here. That the District of Squamish award the contract to complete the external water meter installation project to Complete Utility Contractors Limited, and that the District of Squamish award the contract to complete the internal water meter installation project to Neptune Technology Group, and that the Mayor and Corporate Officer be authorized to execute agreements for both contracts.
Thank you.
Questions?
Councilor Pettiel and Councilor Stoner?
Is there a reason, and it's probably been in the plan and I've forgotten, but why we didn't just set a standard and say, look, if you want to keep getting water, you've got to get a meter. Here's the standard. We'll come and inspect once you have it installed, and then once everything's okay, we'll turn it on. Why have we taken ownership of the procurement and installation piece?
It's a good question. We could keep billing at the flat rate. However, we want to drive the water conservation effort. If we install the meters, then we have control over them. Obviously, we want to install the proper meters. We want to ensure that we can inspect them and maintain them. So really, it's like a piece of the district's water system infrastructure. It's an infrastructure item that we want to maintain. We want to ensure it's in proper working order, and we sort of want to dictate what is installed and how it's maintained and operated.
Councilor Stoner?
I'm not sure if either of these companies were used in the previous round of contracting, but I'm curious how successful delivery of previous contracts is weighted at all in our RFP process.
Absolutely. So, what's the word I'm looking for? References is a key component of the evaluation. There's a fairly high weighting towards references. The internal water meter contractor, Neptune, were not successful previously, so they're new. We did references for them, and they actually manufacture the meters that we are using. They have a very long history of successful installations, so we have high confidence in their ability to do the work. Complete Utilities, they were awarded the previous external water meter contract. We work closely with them. Our engineering consultant, ISL, worked closely with them. Generally, they performed very well. They were effective and efficient in the work that they did. They did good work. There was one site where the site restoration work was not done as it should have been, and has dragged on much longer than it should have. However, generally, and the majority of the work that was completed was very successful. Yeah.
I don't see any other questions. Council? Councilor Anderson?
I would just like to express appreciation to Mr. Morrow for the summary presentation. For a new councillor, this is a very good introduction to something that past two councils, I take it, were struggled with, if you like. So it's a very useful overview of the policy and how it has evolved. Thank you.
Do you want to move the motion?
Sure.
Moved by Councilor Anderson, seconded by Councilor French. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next up is a notice of work referral on district lots 509 and 510. Over to Mr. Bylaws to take us through this.
Thank you, Mayor. Just going to put the presentation on. Okay, so my name is Jonas. I'm the Director of Community Planning. And tonight I bring forward a referral that the district received a few months ago in October regarding a notice of work for district lots 509 and 510. This is a mining referral from the Ministry of Mines. It was received through Front Counter BC, which is their standard process. The application is essentially exploratory in nature. It proposes bulk sampling sites in 3 areas for dimensional stone. Usually, as I understand these applications, they are used to sort of determine the value of resources in the area. And they generally are permitted on a 5-year basis. And by regulation, the maximum amount of material that can be extracted through this process is about 20,000 tons. The proposal includes 3 areas, each with its own road, happening concurrently. Majority of material will likely be generated by road building, however, not by mining. So the 20,000 ton limit, my understanding, is just on the mining activity. It does not apply to road building. And so the numbers that we see in the referral are excessive road building. Just the Dawah Drive road is about 140,000 cubic meters of material that would have to come out for the road. No estimate was provided for the other 2 areas for road building. So here's a map of the proposed mining areas. You can see one up in the north side off of Dawah Drive. This is where most of cut would have to happen through the existing grade. It looks like up to 15 meters of cut would have to take place in order to bring the grade down to where Dawah Drive is now. The proposal also suggests that there will be on-site processing and stockpiling of material of about 75% by the looks of it. Also, the proposal suggests that there will be potential blasting and extraction works as well as road building in quite close proximity to residences, school, and recreation access points. So we've got a school at the end of Dawah Drive, As well, this acts as one of the key access points to recreation area in the Alice Lake area. We also have residences near Mine Area 2 and Mine Area 1 that would likely be impacted by the extraction activities as well as road building. So our zoning bylaw has, the property is zone resource, and the resource zone actually has a setback requirement for mining activity, which is permitted on the property. Not extraction or, not processing or stockpiling, but just the extraction activity is permitted. However, there's a requirement for a 500-foot buffer area between residential areas and all uses on the property, except for residential use. So here we can see sort of the general setback area, and if we compare it to what has been provided, a lot of the proposed road building and extraction areas would fall within that 500-foot buffer, which is about 152.4 meters. So some of the issues that are apparent with this application is that materials and equipment would have to travel on roads, especially PIA and PERF, that are not built for truck traffic. Essentially, these are roads that are utilized extensively by pedestrian, by bike traffic. They don't have sidewalks, they don't have a separated bike lane. There's just a gravel shoulder and a bike lane on one end, so they're certainly not designed for this sort of activity. The truck traffic will most likely affect road lifespan on multiple District of Squamish roads, particularly on the Tantalus Road. There's a fresh coat of paving on that road, and we didn't anticipate that this would be happening, so this would affect our maintenance regime for those roads. Proposed roads and bulk sampling areas appear to be very similar to development roads and sites that the applicant and the landowner have made public in the past. So the roads very closely follow the road layout for future development that's not been approved by the district, as well as some of the extraction sites closely follow the development sites. There's lack of technical detail and consultation with this application, and I'll go a little bit in detail on that. There's no environmental assessment that's been supplied with the application. There's no drainage and erosion plan. There is no traffic off-site impact assessment. There's no assessment on what the truck traffic would do to road grades, as well as groundwater impact has not been provided. And with mining activity, all of these aspects, especially in close proximity to residential areas and where truck traffic has to travel over residential areas, it should be addressed. So in the council report, the recommended motion to the province, we have to respond, I think our deadline is tomorrow. So staff are recommending that the district recommended that the province refuse the application, as the proposal may affect public health and safety of the surrounding areas, and based on the following factors. So one is the contravention of District of Squamish standards and regulations for mining, processing, and stockpiling activities. We have the buffer area that this proposal obviously is within from residential development. We also do not allow processing and stockpiling on the property, and this proposal includes that. Generally, the mining and road building areas are just too close to residential, institutional, and recreational uses. The proposal appears to advance road building and site preparation for residential development without due land use planning being in place. The application appears to propose excessive and concurrent road building for mining activities. So rather than going to one area at a time, it's proposing to go all three at the same time. And then finally, roads are not designed to handle heavy truck material, especially in areas 1 and 2 through residential areas. And then the report goes into a number of gaps that we recommend identifying to the province, and those again relate to road use. One of the main issues is that we have not engaged with the applicant at all around any sort of agreement for road use that would anticipate kind of the wear and tear, the traffic impact on our roads, and then come up with some sort of a strategy to mitigate it. Proximity to residences and school are of particular concern. There is a fairly long list of environmental concerns detailed in the report. We suggest that we raise that with the province, as well as drainage and erosion control as it relates to those adjacent properties, which in most cases are downhill from the extraction areas and the road building. That we highlight the processing of material on site is contrary to the zoning bylaw. And then finally, the reports that have been provided with this application do not adequately address noise, dust, debris, and visual impacts of this activity. And that is it for my presentation.
Thank you. Council, questions for clarification? Thank you.
Yeah, the application speaks to the possibility of a work camp or work camps for the operations. Can you just clarify, and there's a couple emails actually later in the agenda about work camps again on a boat in the district water lot, but can you clarify, do we have any zonings in Squamish where work camps are just automatically allowed? Do these require temporary use permits, or how does that work?
Through you, Mayor. In most cases in Squamish, a temporary work camp would require either a rezoning or a temporary use permit. It's not a permitted use in most of our zones, I believe.
Other questions? I suppose I'm curious whether we provide the ministry with updated photos or whether we assume the ministry is working from updated photos of the land in question, because it's certainly not a clear cut anymore.
Through you, Mayor, my intention was to, when we respond to the ministry, also providing the staff report, which contains the 2019 aerial imagery. In my discussions with the province, I think they are aware of sort of the changes that have happened in Squamish since the photo that was provided in the application.
Okay. In the image of the setbacks, there's one corner, southwest corner, where there's a triangle that comes in, and that's not a 500-foot setback.
Yes, right in here. It is because the setback speaks to residential zones
Right.
and uses, and we have a park use in this corner here.
Okay. That's pretty good.
So I noticed on page 69, there's a section where it speaks about this being vacant land and the district turning down residential development several times. Is this, when we give the province feedback, will we sort of clarify that despite being second growth, it is habitat currently, and that we actually in our OCP have identified this as future residential, so it's not that we've generally said no, we're sort of working from a plan. Is that the sort of feedback you will include in your response?
Certainly we can highlight that the official community plan designation at the moment is for future residential development. Again, the province is, I think, aware of the OCP designation, but we can include that in the response.
Okay, any other comments? Yes, Councilor Stoner.
In the proponent's application, there's the map with the water courses and their proposed 30-meter setbacks. And I'm just curious, from my perspective, it seemed like that map was fairly rough in terms of actual adequacy. And so I'm just wondering if it's worth kind of calling that out as well, if those kind of setbacks are actually legitimately 30 meters from all water courses on site.
Through Mayor, that is, you're correct, that is a concern. The way the maps are looking, it looks like they're just a standard 30-meter setback from a line on the map. And what we know about watercourses not in flat areas is that top of bank where you start to measure the riparian setbacks often ends up being, much further away from where the watercourse actually is. So that one of the comments is to make sure that we get adequate mapping for all watercourses.
Yes, Councilor Pena.
Just a comment, and something I'm having some challenge reconciling is when I've spoken to advocates of the residential project, one of the claims I've heard is that this is effectively infill. It doesn't, it's not sprawl because it's really right in with residential. But it seems to me then if you accept that as an argument for the residential, it would apply to the mining too, and sort of mean that the mining is occurring sort of as infill or right in residential development.
Is that a statement or question?
Comment.
There's a comment. Okay. Okay, Councilor, where to from here?
I'll move the staff recommendation.
Moved by Councilor Stoner, seconded by Councilor Reese. Any comments?
I'll speak to it.
Yes?
I just want to commend staff on the thoroughness of this report. It was very well done. And I think they were all really important points that were raised by staff. To me, the most critical component here is the fact that the proposed activity on site, rock stockpiling and processing, is not an permitted use of the current zoning. And so this does require a rezoning, and so it really puts kind of this piece around the provincial application, kind of the cart before the horse from my perspective. So thank you to the staff for the time and energy that's gone into this, and looking forward to hearing back what the province has to say.
Thank you. Councilor French?
So we've been hearing for many years that district lots 509 and 510 will be developed as residential properties, new neighborhoods, and in August that was confirmed. We had an information open house that talked about this area becoming a bike in, bike out residential area. And during that public information open house, there was no mention of a mining operation on these two lots. So I'd like to see the landowner put their energy into the residential plans and this mining plan on a back burner. I will be supporting the staff recommendation.
Thank you, Councilor French. Councilor Reese, then Councilor Anderson.
Thank you. I'm going to support this motion as well, and I thank staff for putting this together. I completely agree with the points raised by staff in this, and it does look suspiciously like the start of a residential development without permission. But I won't go that far to say that, but I'm going to support this resolution.
Councilor Anderson.
Yes, I'll be supporting the resolution as presented as well. However, in principle, I am not a supporter of how the growth management policy established in the current OCP applies to this property, and I've stated so on many occasions in public, including during the OCP public hearings. I would encourage the proponent to direct their efforts, as per Councilor French's suggestion, towards the residential development.
Councilor Anderson. Councilor Herbert.
Thank you. Thank you for staff. I'll be supporting this. Thank you, staff, for the work on this. I felt like it really got to the core of what our issues are, and I'm sure as those things start being addressed, there's even more there as well. So this is very much a starting point, and I'd like to see, along with my fellow councillors, I think we'd like to see, if we're going to contemplate a residential development, then we should be contemplating residential development and not doing this. So,
I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
We have financial services. that Roland Russell be appointed as Deputy Financial Officer for the District of Squamish. Moved by Councillor, what's wrong with your name tonight? Councillor Stoner. Seconded by Councillor French. All those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. We have a consent agenda here. Is there anything someone needs to pull from the consent agenda? Whether minutes or correspondence?
Full correspondence, C2.
C2, thank you. Anything else? Also, there's a memo in there too. All right, seeing none, motion to move the consent agenda. Moved by Councilor Anderson, seconded by Councilor French. All those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. We'll deal with C2 under 12. Councilor Stoner?
Yep.
So, under correspondence, we have a letter from the Squamish Water Sports to Squamish Council about water access for their operation, and that is referred to staff. Moved by Councilor Stoner, seconded by Councilor Anderson. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Councilor Stoner, your C2, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to pull this for council discussion and consideration. It's a request from A. Bracey, who is leading the charge on a fundraiser for the Hilltop House to help support the bus that they recently purchased. They are proposing to sell reusable bags. That falls in line with our single-use plastics reduction strategy. And they're requesting sponsorship from the District of Squamish. And I wanted to have a council discussion if it was something that we'd be willing to entertain to be sponsors of.
How much was the amount?
The amount is for $1,100.
And are you proposing to?
I am proposing that we act as a sponsor and use council contingency for that funding.
Any other comments, council? Councilor Anderson?
Thank you. I would have preferred the Hilltop House Society to approach the Community Enhancement Grant Program. We have been allocating some monies toward another partner society, if you like, the Hospice Society. But I'd like to encourage them to work together in their fundraising and activities, and others are actually doing the same to try to foster better coordination between these three societies that support the Hospital Foundation. But on this occasion, I'm reluctant to support an application to the contingency fund.
Okay, do you want to move a motion and we shall put something on the floor then?
I will move that we support the Hilltop House Support Society to the degree of $1,100 towards their reusable bag project, funded from council contingency.
Is there a seconder? Councilor Herford? Any other comments? Councilor Race?
Yeah, I'm going to support this motion. And I know historically, and I'm one of them, council has been a little bit leery about supporting things that are sort of within the purview of other government bodies, such as the school board, or in this case, Vancouver Coastal Health, and that is one of the challenges for me. But I think in this case, if it's a relatively small amount, it is certainly a cause that otherwise we could support, and so I will support this motion.
Okay. Councilor Baker?
I'm waffling. Similar to Councilor Anderson, I think this might have been more appropriate as a community enhancement grant. I'm trying to weigh the choices we made there with this. On the other hand, kind of like the idea of rewarding people that are paying attention to our single-use reduction and looking for ways to kind of align themselves with what we're doing as a municipality, and so part of me wants to support that too, so I'm just kind of feeling a bit uncertain at the moment.
Certainly, this wouldn't be the first time we've had a request that comes after the deadline for community enhancement grants, and that's part of what council contingency has been used for in the past, where it's available.
I will just speak to that. I have spoken with Ms. Bracy, and the idea for this came in after the allowable deadline for submission to community enhancement grants, so that is why we're seeing this request here.
All right, I will call the question on the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Anderson opposed? Carries. Thank you. So then we have on to number 13, approval of minutes. We have one recommendation from Committee of the Whole that we endorse the Valley Cliff Fire Hall Replacement Project Design Direction and General Scope as outlined to the report to Council on December 10th and provide, and then we expressed our support for option B in terms of the building sustainability.
I'll move that.
Moved by Councilor Herford, second by Councilor Stoner. Any comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We have, any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none. We have public art committee meetings from, committee minutes from December 4th to receive, unless there's any comments from you, Councilor French, on these, just in general. No?
Nothing to report.
Okay.
So.
All right. Motion to receive, moved by Councilor French, seconded by Councilor Herford. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We have no in-camera announcements. No unscheduled public attendance. I missed that part. Open question period or clarification related to agenda items. Seeing none, any council or staff announcements? Councilor French.
I had the honor of being at the annual Seniors Holiday Dinner on Friday, December the 6th, and Councillor Anderson was at the event with me, and that was held at the 55 Activity Center. It's a great opportunity for seniors in our community to get together for an evening of festive fun. Entertainment was provided by the Squamish Academy of Music, some of their young performers, and as always, it was a great event.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Anderson?
Yesterday, December 16th, the province's traveling Old Growth Forest Review panel visited Squamish. It was well attended by a number of stakeholders, diverse stakeholders, including First Nations forest enterprises from throughout the region. The topic is one that has been the subject of several reviews over the years. This time around, some of the themes emerging from the meeting was the need to bridge the public with science dialogue and the need to invest in better platforms for information about how we're managing our forests in BC. There's diverse circumstances throughout the province. In this district, we have among the highest proportion of old growth protected in parks and other ways in the province. But there's a lot at stake, and the recreational users and logging users are all part of pressures on our old growth resource, and this will be an ongoing conversation. And from the outcome of yesterday's meeting, it looks like the focus will be on better communication and links between science and the public.
Thank you, Councilor Anderson. Councilor Baker?
So a couple things. I was able to attend a Helping Hands Christmas potluck on Saturday. Just like a few of the other events around this time of year, a lot of community, just kind of the best of the community, taking care of one another. Very heartwarming. Santa was there. There was singing, good food, and kids playing and stuff. It was really nice. And on a bit more somber note, House on Women's Center held a memorial for the Montreal Massacre. So it was it's hard to, I guess, think about it, it was 30 years ago. It doesn't seem like that long ago, and it seems like there's still a fair bit of work to do. But again, a great sense of community, people coming together. So it was a really, really good event. And I just wanted to add a comment, if I could. This is the last meeting of the year, and last meeting of the decade, apparently. You know, it's been a fantastic experience working with this council. I really appreciate it. And one of the things I wanted to call out, though, where I have it on my to-do list to work on is, you know, we get these reports from staff, and you can see there's often months of thought and hard work, and our time here is very compressed. I'm doing my best to keep myself succinct, and I don't always do a good job of that, but I find that pushes me to sometimes just focusing on some of the issues or the problems, and sometimes I feel like I'm coming across a bit too negative, and I'm not sure that it's always you know, inspiring to staff in the way I'd like it to be. So I just want to take this opportunity to tell staff that I really appreciate the depth of the reports and the amount of thought and work that goes into this. And so thank you. It's been a really great time working with this group.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you. Okay, I just want to thank Mountain FM, McDonald's, and Community Christmas Care for their event on the morning of Tuesday, December 10th. There was a pile of toys, there was money coming in, all of our local restaurants challenged each other, which was fantastic. And much needed support for members of our community at this time of year. I also went to the Squamish Library breakfast to thank the board and staff there. What a great group of people, and we were very lucky in Squamish. They are a little hub of energy and innovation, and we all benefit from that. And so yes, I wish all of council rest over the holidays. No agendas for 2 weeks, which is great. I hope staff enjoy that too. Getting off the treadmill, and everyone have a little rest. We have lots to do in the new year. I've already seen the agenda planner for January. It's not looking pretty. So enjoy the rest that you can, and thank you very much to all the staff that support us here at the district. And I will close on that. Motion to terminate. Moved by Councilor Herbert, second by Councilor Race. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.